Hey, worship leader, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a special guest, Kade Young with Collaborate Worship. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm so good, and I'm so grateful to be on this video and talking to you today.
Yeah, I think it'll be good because as the audience here knows that I'm a worship leader, I talk a lot about guitar, effects pedals, but one thing I don't do, and it's probably my biggest weakness as a worship leader, is church sound. I've never been one to be behind a soundboard. I've learned some things watching, looking over the shoulder of other production directors. At my church, we have the luxury of having a full-time production director. So I'm not even forced to learn anything. It's just if I do want to learn something, it's because if I ever go to another church where I need to know these things, and I'm a learner, I like learning things, but spending time on stage keeps you out of the sound booth most of the time. So I wanted to have you on here just so we could just chat and maybe give some wisdom, share some wisdom, because I know you have some resources, you have a website, you have some courses, and I just wanted to share this resource that I've looked around your YouTube channel, super helpful things on there. Even before we met in person, I was already subscribed to your channel, so there's a lot of good stuff over there. So hey, worship leader fam, if you're not subscribed, click the link in the description. I'll have it down there. Collaborate Worship. Go check it out. But what wisdom do you have for a worship leader who may not be in the same boat that I'm in? Maybe they've just started a position. They might even be part-time, maybe volunteer for that matter, and they're responsible for leading worship, but then also dialing in the soundboard. How do they go about doing all that?
Well, I mean, clearly you can't do both at the same time. It's kind of a struggle to be on the stage leading worship and back and forth to the sound. Now, I know people do it, and you just kind of go set it and leave it for that matter. But that's not how it has to be, because, I mean, to give you some perspective, my church is small. It's less than 100 people there every Sunday, and but we still have a team of 3 sound guys that, take turns and run the mix. But I mean, that's not something that happened overnight. It was just, you can always find somebody who will, yeah, sure, I'll run the sound, and they get back there, and you're like, okay, thanks. And the issue with that is there's nobody there to train them. There's nobody there that speaks that language and can help them. So I mean, that's the catch-22 you find yourself in as a worship leader of a small church. You don't know how to run sound. Nobody else knows how to run sound. So how do you even build a team? And I found myself in that situation too, because my dad and I started the church that I'm at right now 13 years ago. And it was just me and him and some other people. There's 12 of us, and I'd been a worship leader for my youth group at that point. But, whenever you're a youth, all you want is loud sound. You don't really pay attention to quality. So I thought I knew everything already. I mean, I was 18 at this point, and so I went in and I was like, I'm going to be the best worship leader in town. And it was horrendous, like just the way that it sounded in there. Thankfully, I swallowed my pride and realized that I didn't know what I was doing, and I dove in and figured it out. And I spent many nights at the church just trying things, testing things. Why does this not work? What is causing the feedback? YouTubing and trying to apply these techniques at like these mega churches. They're the only ones out there teaching sound at this point. They're like, we have this $100,000 mixer, and here's what we do to make it sound good. And you're like, okay, how do I make that work with my $100 mixer here? So that was the journey that I went on, and it took me several years to figure it out. But I mean, with determination and just trial and error, I got somewhere with it, to the point to where all my other worship leader friends were coming to our church, and they're like, wow, like, how did you get it to sound like this? I was like, at that point, I was like, well, I don't really know, because it's just been like one step at a time, and it had been a journey. And but I started to write those things down for my friends, because I got tired of them asking me over and over. I'm like, if you're not going to write it down, I will. And that's how Collaborate Worship was born, to be honest with you. Like, I was like, I'll just start a blog, because I was a web developer at that point. I knew how to start a website. So I put it all online for my friends, and that was it. And then I installed Google Analytics and all that kind of stuff, because I was a web developer. It's just kind of what you do whenever you build a website. And then I go in there like a year later. I'm like, I wonder what this site is actually doing. And I find out that like over 1,000 people a month are reading these articles. I'm like, well, where are these people even coming from? And I wonder what would happen if I wrote like consistently every week. And so that began the journey of, I wrote a blog post every week. I wasn't making any money like on Collaborate Worship at this point. It wasn't a money thing for me. Like I just wanted to help people. And so I'm spending my own money to like host this website and build this email list and give people free resources and all this stuff. And I kept going and kept going and kept going. And before you know it, like here I am where I'm at now, where there's over 25,000 YouTube subscribers, over 25,000 email subscribers. I have 4,000 people inside of my courses, my online courses. It's blowing my mind what happens. And that's just kind of a testament to consistency, which, you know, that's not what we're talking about right now. But all that to say, dig in, like small church worship leader, like dig in and learn sound. That way you can at least learn it enough to at least be able to communicate with somebody what needs to happen and kind of guide them through the simple things. Because it doesn't, my like, I want to call this the good news of the church sound, of the church sound good news, is it doesn't have to be complicated. Like you can keep it simple and have great sound. And that is my whole mantra, my whole goal with Collaborate Worship. I don't deviate into the complicated stuff. Although, I mean, the complicated stuff is cool. It can add some enhancements to your mix, but I don't deviate into that because I'm like, here's the things that move the needle the most. And let's keep it simple so that whenever we bring a new volunteer on, they're not overwhelmed by these 4,000 things that we're doing to this one channel to make it sound this certain way.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's great. I love the fact that, the little history behind there, because it kind of shows your passion for wanting to pour into people. And I'm in the same boat. You know, that's how Hey Worship Leader was started. I started training some worship leaders, and I was asking God, like, you know, how could I expand and pour into more worship leaders? And it's just great, as you know, to be able to share what God's taught you, put in the work, and then just be able to share that with other people. You mentioned courses. Like, I'm intrigued by this because, like I said, I would be, if I had to take a new job tomorrow, I'm going to be looking into, okay, I love your approach. Keep it simple. Focus on those things. What are your courses? Can you explain a little bit about those?
Yeah, so the first course that I ever created was called X32 Mastery, and that was birthed out of my own frustration from going from an analog mixer to a digital mixer, the X32. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but there's a lot of mind shifts that you have to make, and the resources online at that point weren't that great because this is kind of when the X32 was first coming out, and I was just frustrated that I had to spend so much dang time Googling and YouTubing to like figure out like, how do I label a channel? And it's like, you think that should be simple and you can't find it and you're searching through the menu and for whatever reason, the X32 calls it a scribble strip. I mean, that should be a simple YouTube search to figure that out. And at that point though, there wasn't any resources. So I went through the pain of figuring this stuff out on my own. And then I was like, I'm going to create a course on this so nobody else has to go through the pain of transitioning from analog to digital. So that's the X32 Mastery course. The first version of that came out, I think it was 3 years ago. And we actually just recreated it last year with the new firmware. And I mean, just to be honest with you, whenever I was looking at my videos from 3 years ago, and you probably feel my pain, I was just devastated by how I presented the information and how much of a nerd I was. It's like, I've got to redo this because I'm just so ashamed that people are even watching these videos.
I feel you on that. And I go back to like my first couple of videos and I'm looking and, oh man, there's a few that I just want to take down, but I'm like, I'll just get over myself. It'll be a good memory one day. But there is like the first video I recorded, I showed it to my wife before I uploaded it. And she was like, that's not you. And I was like, I know, but it's so hard to talk and be yourself when there's a camera in your face and you're alone in a room. And oh my goodness, it's so hard. I never posted that one. I will never. It was bad.
That was your TV persona.
That's right. Well, I love the idea of courses. You know, this definitely intrigues me. I've talked about it on my channel, and this will be the first time I'll actually say something if somebody's watching this, but I've been planning a course on the HX Stomp. I got a pod go and a Helix, and actually started recording it this week. So soon it'll be out because I love the idea of being able to learn, and there's a lot of people that get gear like this. They get a new soundboard, and it doesn't have to be that hard, but it's really hard these days because there's so much information out there. And there's ads. People got to make money. You know, it's hard to get to the information. Something as simple as finding out the term scribble strip, which we have that too on the Helix. I feel the pain. So that's awesome. You have other courses too, right?
Yeah. And this is probably the one that I want most people in. Like the X32 Mastery course is great for those who are making that transition, but the course that I'm most proud of, I guess, is my Church Sound Made Simple course. This was birthed right in the midst of the pandemic, and so that was fun in and of itself. But I wanted a system for bringing on a new volunteer. So let's say we have a complete newbie, and they're like, "Hey, I'm interested in running sound. What's the best way to train them?" So I went on a journey myself of figuring that out. Like, how can we train them without overwhelming them? Because I can't tell you how many times that churches bring on a sound person who's like a willing vessel, and then they see all these knobs and all these lights and all this stuff, and they're like, "I'm out of here." Like, they last 2 weeks and that's it. It's like, I got to put a stop to that. And so that's where Church Sound Made Simple, came to be. And so in that training, there's actually there's 2 courses in there, and the first one is an onboarding for church sound course, and that's what you would use to bring on a complete newbie, and they'll become confident behind the mixer in just 8 weeks. And how I do that is they just learn one thing a week. And so you pair them with somebody who already knows what they're doing, and they come in week 1, they learn about gain, how to set gain, and they go through every channel and they make sure that gain is set correctly. And then that's what they're focused on that week. And then the next week they come back and they focus on the low cut filter, and they go through every channel and they put the low cut filter on. It's just 1 week at a time, one focus at a time. And that's how you keep them from getting overwhelmed, but you teach them all those important things that are really moving the needle forward to a great mix. And by the end of that 8 weeks, you kind of set them loose with all the things that they've learned. And it's amazing, because I just did this with a guy at our church, and he's 16 years old. He wanted to get involved. And I'm like, all right, you're going through Church Sound Made Simple, and here's how it works. And basically they just watch a 5-minute video like before rehearsal one Sunday. They come in, they practice what they learn in that 5-minute video, and that's all they do that Sunday. And so that's how it works, and it's beautiful. And the other half of that course or training is another course called Consistent Mixing Made Simple, because I know one of the biggest pain points for churches is they'll have multiple volunteers and they all create their own thing. So one Sunday it sounds like this, one Sunday it sounds like this, and it's just like, we just want some consistency here. And so that's what that course is all about, to get your entire team mixing the same. It doesn't put like these restrictions on them where they can't be artistic or expressive in what they're doing behind the mixer, because I mean, this is an art form, and you're just as much as a musician behind the mixer as you are behind the guitar. And you don't want to take that away from people, but at the same time you want some guardrails, right? And so that's what Consistent Mixing Made Simple is all about. Make sure that everybody's kind of mixing vocals the same way, and your instruments, and creating the layers, and like how loud do we want the bass to be in the room, and figuring out those kind of things.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think that speaks to like where my heart is at when it comes to whether you're training sound, other worship leaders, especially, if you mentioned a 16-year-old, I have some youth who may be interested in worship leading, and the only way to train these people is to have a system. A lot of complaints is like, oh, we don't have enough people that know this stuff, but then nobody's doing anything about it. So having a system, at least in your own church, with the people, even if it's your own kids, if you have them, pouring into the next generation of people or volunteers who have that heart but just don't have the knowledge. Take time to pour into those people and to actually teach them, rather than living in frustration because they don't know what they're doing. I love that. I feel like we're kindred spirits, even though we're on opposite sides sometimes, in that pouring into people. So I have a specific question. This was probably covered in your course, but I'm on stage a lot. I'm not behind the soundboard. And now I will say this is not at my church. So nobody from my church. This was at a guest church, but what is the purpose? This is the tip. What is the purpose of a gate on a soundboard? Because I'll share the frustration first, and maybe you can make it elaborate. But I'll have people put like a hard gate on my electric guitar, which maybe they're used to an amp that's loud or noisy. But nowadays I go through this, and it's already got an input gate, and I take my hands off the string. It's already quiet. And one of my biggest frustrations is having, whether it's me on a guitar player or the keys, who are swelling in, and in the ears it sounds perfect, but then I'll take my ears out and that swell is not even there, and then all of a sudden it hits that threshold, and then it's there, and it's like the artistry of swelling in this beautiful tone just got smashed by that gate, and it didn't even sound like a swell. Help me out. This isn't even for the viewers right now. This is for me. What is a gate for, and how would you go about setting that on a guitar tone specifically? Does a guitar tone need a gate? What's it for?
So my first instruction is to turn it off. because that's like one of the things on the mixer that you want to be very scarce in using. Only use it like whenever you're having a problem. I know some like sound guys are like, okay, there's a gate available here, so I guess I need to use it on every channel. It's like, no. Turn the gate off and then listen for the things that actually need it. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. If you have a guitar that hums whenever he's not playing or she's not playing, that's when you would use a gate, and you would have it set very low so that you don't miss any of the tones, any of the quiet tones. Like you don't miss any of that. It only closes down whenever they stop playing, so you don't hear the zzz, you know, in a quiet moment of worship or whatever. So that's one example. Another example is like on the on drums. So you know, you look at an acoustic drum set, and there's a lot of microphones back there, and they'll cross feed off of each other. And so you might want to put a gate on something just to keep, let's say, the snare mic closed whenever you hit the kick drum or something like that. And even on like the tom drum, so you have like your low tom, which gives you like a goo, and it kind of like falls off and decays naturally. But whenever you amplify that sound, it may like just keep going way too long, like in the PA system. Like it's like they hit that tom and it goes on for 5 seconds, and you're like, I got to put a stop to that. And so you'd put a gate on that so that your release time, you set that so that it sounds natural, how you want that tom to sound and how long you want it to last. And so that's really the only two times that I use a gate, is to get rid of that hum during the silent moments of a song, and on drum mics. And not every drum mic, just if it needs it.
Man, that's awesome. I'm glad I asked that question because I think that's helpful. The other thing, I was watching one of your videos, and I remember you were talking. This is completely a different topic. Sorry. But one of the wisdoms, and maybe you can speak into it. This isn't specific to a soundboard or anything, but being behind, the thing I know that's different about being on a worship team versus a production team, especially that my production team has shared this, is the worship team can get up there, they do their thing, and then they go off stage. But the production team doesn't get a break until the service is over. It's constant. And so when things go wrong, one of the things I heard in one of your videos was like, relax and take the time to think through the problem. And in the scenario you gave, it's like something's not on, and they just went in and turned it on, and then all of a sudden it's way too loud. And I've been in places where that seems to happen more than not. And someone like me who's a musician, you know, I like to fade in things. I'm thinking through transitions, and I think sometimes volunteers that are helping with the soundboards don't come from a musician background. But like you said, it is an art. There's an art to this. So what wisdom do you have when things go wrong? Although I just said the wisdom that you already shared, but can you speak more into, man, something's not working. What's the mindset to the panic? How can you help people who are either behind the pro presenter or at the soundboard? What wisdom do you have when things go wrong?
Yeah, that's a lot of trial and error, that stuff that you have to figure out over time. But like the example that you shared, is I was at a funeral service, you know, when everybody's reverent and quiet, the musician gets up there and the acoustic guitar wasn't on. And so the sound guy just freaks out, hits the unmute button, and like it just scares everybody in the room, because at that point the acoustic guitar player is like really going at it already. I was like, man, if you would have just taken 2 seconds to think through, like, oh, you know, I have that channel muted, let me pull the fader down real quick, unmute it, and then just fade him in slowly so it doesn't scare everybody in the room. So it's just, you know, don't overreact. I mean, I understand the pressure. Like, sound guys do feel a lot of pressure, especially when they forget to turn a mic on or something like that. But just take one moment, like, what's the best solution here? And then, because it'll come to you if you'll just calm yourself down, and then, yeah, stop being so hard on yourself. I love to have videos where I talk about my own mistakes, because I make plenty of them. There is no perfect sound guy out there. There's no perfect musician out there. If you make a mistake, learn from it, and then move on. That's all it is. It's a learning experience. Yeah.
Man, I agree. I played this morning at a chapel service at a seminary in my town. And I was using some wireless things on my guitar, and I forgot to bend down and turn it on when we started the service. And I'm playing, and the little bit of guitar I could hear was coming through, I think, my mic. You know, I was like, can I hear it here? Or I don't think I hear it. And then during a part of the service, I had time to like just go down there and hit it real quick and turn it on. But then I was afraid, which we had a great sound guy, and he did a great job. But I was afraid they were cranking it, trying to like, is this guitar on? Then I was going to hit it, and it was going to be like, poof. Luckily they did a great job and didn't freak out and crank it or anything, but it worked out. But all that to say, I make mistakes too. I made one today. Who doesn't turn their guitar on when it's time to play?
Yeah,
it happens to
that's funny, man. It reminds me of a time that I was playing keys in worship, and I use main stage whenever I do, and my computer froze for whatever reason. So I mean, it's just like no sound, and it's just like, what do you do? Nothing. Because I mean, you're going to be a huge distraction if you try to restart your computer and like you're fiddling with all your stuff. Because this was out at the end of a worship set. Everybody's singing. I'm supposed to be like providing this ambient like back noise for everything, and it's just like, well, it's just going to be old school right now. Yep, it's gone.
Oh man, yeah, we all have nightmare stories. I feel like I've had years without something too bad, but that just happened this morning. And then 2 weeks ago, I was using it's all wireless stuff. I was using a wireless pack that was new, and the company actually said it was probably faulty, and they gave me a new one. But the wireless pack just switched channel, the group and the channel, and there was no group and channel buttons on the pack itself. It was like one of those infrared thing where it matches, which sounds like a great feature, but there was no time for me to stop singing, go back there, hold it, and I'm in the middle of a song. Like I had the rest of a song and a whole nother song, and I was completely dead in the water, no click, no cues. The rest, I turned and looked at the drummer, and I was like, I tried to give him the signal, like, you might as well cut the click because I can't hear it, and I didn't want to get off. By God's grace, we made it through, but man, it's and I've learned the same tip, like, just don't panic. We're just a group of people in a room trying to sing to God, and we'll do it even if stuff goes wrong, and even if the power goes out, you know, it'll be fine. And I think at the end of the day, I think as long as we don't take ourselves too seriously, you know, things will be good. But I did want to say, like, it is being behind the soundboard, the production team, it is unique in that when things go well and things are amazing, nobody says anything. But then, so I'll edit this part out because my daughter just walked in. Hey.
Hey.
I'm recording a video right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say hi to Kade?
Hi.
Hi. What's your name?
Judy. Her name's Judy Lynn. She's only 2,
Awesome,
so
Judy.
she did. Yeah.
That's awesome,
So-
Judy. It's good to meet you. I have a daughter named Riley, and she's 3. So you guys are about
wow.
the same age.
Nice. Yeah, she'll be 3 in March. So yeah, we were recording. Luckily, it's my video, not his. All right. All right. I'll see you later. Yeah, I should have locked the door. Sorry.
Dude, man, I totally get it. I actually have 4 kids, and number 5 is on the way. We'll be here in April.
Oh wow, man, that's awesome. We have 3, and we're in a puppy, and we're done.
That's it.
I was saying so. Oh, I know what I was saying. I don't remember what part of the sentence I was in, but I was saying something along the lines of how unique it is for the sound team when things are going well. Nobody notices or says anything, but it's like one thing goes wrong and everybody's turning around looking at the sound team. And so I know it's a lot of pressure. I've been responsible for just hitting the arrow on Pro Presenter before. If you don't have it, you know, like automated with Ableton, somebody's got to hit that arrow, and the panic making sure it's there and listening to the sermon and making sure all the slides are there and not drifting. You can't take a mental break at all. And so I feel for my production brothers and sisters, and I just wanted them to hear that. So
Give them a hug, even though they'll hate it, because most of them are introverts.
that's right. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the channel. It was good. Maybe we'll have you on again, because I know you got a lot more wisdom to share. And I appreciate you coming on here. Worship Leader peeps, hey, Worship Leader fam, if you'll click the link in the description, go check out the resources, especially if you're like me and you need training in sound, even if it's the Sound Made Simple course. Go check it out. If nothing else, check out his YouTube channel, because there's a bunch of valuable stuff on there as well. So, man, Kade, I appreciate you being on here, and I'll have you back on soon.
Thanks, man. It was an honor.
All right. See y'all in the next video. Bye.
See ya.